Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Ji Ayanub. Khair agale. Ni hao. Chunushumme. Washmale. Oh, hi, Gonzalez. Guten Morgen. Hola. Bonjour. Privyet. Kaifa hal? Hale shumachatore. Ahlan wasalan. Marhaba. Buna. Mucho. Gracias. Swabia. Billi kare aaya. Hosh gaden. Naya sayo. Khuya mora. Adab. And thank you very much, everybody, for tuning into PTV World. You are certainly watching What This Morning alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Haja Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well, that you're ready to kickstart your week with us. But first things first, from the very red, wonderful co-host of mine, ladies and gentlemen, I need to ask her, how was your weekend and how are you feeling today?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for introducing me, Shahzad. So certainly it's a very dry winters because there's no rain, and I think everyone has a sore throat in some form. So the weekend was happening in a sense that yesterday was a World Cup, and I think that the Qatar did a great job in hosting the event, and I feel that the Qatar has emerged a very potent force, especially in the Muslim world, be it the emergence of Al Jazeera, because it is one of the kind of the channel that has presented an alternative narrative to the mainstream media, which was dominated by the West. True. And especially the universities, the way they're undertaking the research. I'm really glad that there is a country, especially among the Muslim countries, by the name of Qatar, which is bringing up, and it has been very successful in hosting the World Cup event.
And exactly, that's one thing which I wanted to speak about as well, because as soon as the the FIFA World Cup ceremony, the closing ceremony took place, that's something which actually struck with me.
Okay.
And that was that, imagine that Qatar, ladies and gentlemen, have been actually within this process for almost now 6 or 7 years, where they started building
12 years actually.
where they started building this facility, and I'm referring to as 6-7 years because my sister used to live in Qatar.
Okay.
And that's exactly what we saw over there when we visited her, because all of these facilities were developed. Okay. And they've developed in such a manner that now this facility will be converted into some other grounds, and not just that, these stadiums can be lifted and taken to another place. So that's one thing which we really need to consider. Number two, which stayed with me, was that imagine, as a Muslim country, I think that their efforts to kind of make sure that Islam reaches out to the maximum number of people is one thing which is really admirable. So imagine that there were places within the stadiums where while you were making way towards to watch a football match, right, imagine you see tablets here and there where with one click you access a QR code and all the information related to your religion will actually be available on your cell phone. So such technologies were brought in. From the opening ceremony, where obviously the the recitation of Holy Quran was there.
Yeah.
I think that we as Muslims, they have portrayed us in a very amazing manner, and I think that's what Muslims are all about. That's what our religion is all about. It's about peace, it's about tranquility. It's not just that. I think it's about harmony as well, and that's what we saw. And Qatar, to be very honest, I think have been missing on this footprint. Where if we speak about United Arab Emirates, I think they've always been in the leading front as well, and they've always tried. Qatar was trying to get to this point where they are able to do it. More than $250 billion were actually invested for this one amazing
matter of the fact is that there was a lot of coverage, especially in the Western mainstream media, regarding the migrant workers and how they were not looked after. And actually, Qatar paid them back all of the penalties which ILO raised that issue. So I'm really glad that Qatar actually undertook that. And also, matter of the fact is the way it was covered by the Western mainstream media, it was really it showed their double standards, because BBC, I think, boycotted the closing ceremony. Exactly. And so was the opening ceremony, and the way BBC covered the Iraq war, it was so shameful. And I mean, they lied point blank on the faces of the lot of people, and they said that it has a weapon of mass destruction, and it didn't had that. And I do feel that the way the wide identity was being negotiated, and especially the emergence of Al Jazeera, that has rattled that entire concept. I'm really glad that the Qatar is taking that lead, and Qatar is doing all of those things. That is a true representation
exactly.
of us.
And in addition to that, obviously, I would certainly want to salute my armed forces over here as well, because it was Pakistan Army looking after the security of the entire FIFA World Cup taking place in Qatar. 2 units, ladies and gentlemen, were actually posted over there. And even though that we weren't really able to see where our Pak Fauj ke Jawan were, but imagine that for the entire tournament to go smoothly and looking after the security, I think it was fantastic. Now coming down to where I want to talk about the sportsman spirit.
Okay.
And I think that's something which I witnessed in the final in between Argentina and France. So let's go ahead and talk about the top stories, because this happens to be one of
It was a thrilling World Cup final, finished 3-3 after extra time at the Lusail Stadium. So it was a quiet, I think it was going on your nerve. The match was so good out there.
And our Prime Minister and the President of Islamic Republic of Pakistan even tweeted, what a nail-biting finish to the FIFA World Cup. Messi's Argentina, obviously that's what the flag says. Congratulations to Qatar for successfully holding the mega event. Upsets by Saudi Arabia and Morocco remain highlights of the tournament for me. And you know, because this is a meme which has been going on as well. So Dr. Arif Alvi Saab even actually tweeted, Shandar World Cup, Mubarak ho Argentine football में आलमी चैंपियन बन गया. मेसी की शानदार गोल, अच्छा खेला फ्रांस ने, दोबारा पीछे रहकर फिर बराबर आया. बापे की हैट्रिक लोगों को हमेशा याद रहेगी. दोस्त मुल्क कतर को वर्ल्ड कप 2022 बगैर किसी मसले के इनकाद पर मुबारकबाद भी देना चाहता हूं. That's what our president said. You know, obviously felicitations and congratulations are on way for Qatar, for Argentina and for France as well. But you know, having said that, there's one thing which I would, there's a meme which is going on, and that is that since Saudi Arabia actually defeated Argentina, they say that Saudi Arabia happens to be the world champion. But it's all right. I think having said that, it was a great game.
True.
And you know, France never let it go. Argentina didn't let it go, but towards the end of the game, it was all about who's got better nerves of steel. And I think Argentina took it away over there, and their goalkeeper even did a fabulous job.
True, true. So moving on to another top story, which is some political happenings that are going inside Islamabad. Former President Asif Ali Zardari and co-chairman Pakistan People's Party held a meeting with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif at Model Town in Lahore. The two leaders discussed the overall political and economic situation of the country. And matter of the fact is, Shahzad, that we have seen in the recent days, the government has reduced the prices of petroleum products by 10 rupees, and I think that is a much needed oxygen or the breather that the entire country needs, because obviously in the era of the global inflation, everyone is badly hit, and especially the vulnerable population of Pakistan that have been struck by the climate-induced calamity of flooding, and still we are not able to rehabilitate ourselves because the losses amount to somewhere $40 billion, and that is a very huge loss, and 9.1% of the climate losses of the GDP. Also moving on to our third top story, which is the United Nations has launched the International Decade of Indigenous Languages, aimed at helping people around the world to keep their mother tongues alive. In his message, UN Secretary General President Korosi said preserving their languages is not only important for them but also for the humanity. So according to United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, indigenous people speak more than 4,000, one of the world's roughly 7,600 languages.
Wow.
And obviously it is important that we preserve our cultural languages, our indigenous languages, because the language represents more than that. Obviously it represents your culture, it represents your the way of life, the values, the norms and whatnot, the proverbs and whatnot, right? So
and a better understanding as well. I think
I
think that's something which we really need to kind of mention over here, because you know, when we speak about mother tongue, ladies and gentlemen, you know, if I go back to when I was in school, you know, in my primary education period of my life, I could still see that there were children who would fail in Urdu, and there were children who would fail in Islamiyat.
Right.
And I was like, hey, you know what, this subject really needs to be the most easy subject around of all the subjects as well, and why are you guys failing? And the only reason which caught my attention was that just because that, you know, we were viewing, we were learning a lot from English, and you know, having said that, you know, when we speak about how the world has become global, I think in another 100 years, I think that the maximum population will be speaking the global language as well, which as of now happens to be English. And people have been trying to move to Chinese, people have been trying to move to German and French. And there was a time when people were multilingual as well, you know, or when we speak about it, bilingual as well. But I think at this point of time, what we really need to kind of focus on is whether, you know, our education really needs to be in our mother tongue. And if it does, I think it's going to cause a lot of problem if we are going to think that way, because then it's going to be Maushirti Ulum and
Right.
and Arazi and so many other subjects, and it will be difficult.
And we also need to incorporate and inculcate this thing into the mind that is the indigenous languages or the cultural languages, they are that much adapt with the changing changing dynamics of the world. So in order to have this discussion,
Yeah, in addition to that, I just wanted to make one simple point, and that point was that imagine that, that we have looked down on the system when we spoke about Urdu medium school. And imagine even in today's bureaucracy, if we see, I think all of these amazing people who are working, who happen to be public servants, have come down from all of those backgrounds where initially they might have gone to a school which was Urdu medium, and it was looked down upon to kind of inculcate a culture of how we really need to be, on top of our English language game. And I think it has been very impactful by far. Over here in Pakistan, if you speak English fluently, I get that in my comment box quite a lot, sir, aapki English badi achhi hai. It's not an achievement to speak another language, but I believe that it's best that you actually get to know when you travel around the world that you're able to communicate. But mother language always need to come first. And having said that, over here in Pakistan, Hajra, as soon as we start our journey all the way from the north to the south of Pakistan, we have 71 different languages. And the majority of the people might not even know about it. The dialects are different as well. But when we speak about primary education in mother tongue, obviously it's going to vary. So in Sindh it's going to be Sindhi, in Balochistan it's going to be Balochi. And then from there onwards, if we kind of look on to the higher secondary education, what happens is then there is a problem for children to kind of adopt to another language. And that's something which we wanted to discuss. And to discuss that, we're very lucky that we've been joined by
Dr. Ali Raza, who happens to be an educationist. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Thank you very much for having me.
So sir, what is the correlation between the primary education and between the mother tongue?
Actually, we need to understand the effects of mother tongue first.
Yeah.
Right.
First of all, sir, I'm very sorry, but we need to understand what is mother tongue.
Yes.
For example, if somebody happens to be a single father, let's start from there. Do you think, and the father comes from a very different region of this world, mother might be Pakistani, do you think that language which the father speaks is the mother tongue? Do you think the language that the dada or the dadi speaks is the mother tongue? How do we define mother tongue? The only language which your mother speaks is mother tongue, or it can be otherwise?
Actually, it's the first language a child learns, whatever it be. Be it a father's language or mother's language or uncle's language or grandfather's language, whatever it is. And it's actually, it's like if you know about computers, it's like they are actually programmed in ones and O's.
Ones and zeros, yes.
So it's like that. It's the basic language that we are developed with. Even in the womb of the mother, the child learns that language.
Yeah, that's true.
So this is why it's called mother tongue.
So it's the language which the baby is going to learn, and that too while even the mother is carrying themselves in the womb. That's what we refer to as mother tongue, or the first language they're going to speak.
Naturally, when they are born, they might have a different language. But then we won't call that language the mother's language her mother tongue. Because initially, yes, the child might have learned that language, but as you know that their cognitive abilities are not developed. So when in the first 6-7 years, they develop the brain cells. Full brain develops after 6 years. I think about 6 or 7 years it takes time. So and during that period, whatever language a child accumulates and inculcates, that's the language.
All right. So why is it important for the child to be getting education in their mother tongue?
Yeah, it's because
better understanding.
Their first thinking, emotional setup, everything is designed in the mother tongue.
That's true.
And if you want to teach the child something else, then you have to give the whole atmosphere right from the beginning. But if you can't give that atmosphere, you have to stick to the mother tongue. The same problem is with us in Pakistan. In Pakistan, though the students, especially in rural areas, they find English very difficult. Even they find, I've seen like Urdu is also very difficult for them. As you mentioned that students were failing in Urdu and Islamiyat, only because that's not their mother tongue.
Really?
Yeah.
But they were from Islamabad. I thought that they were raised.
No, it's not like that.
Yeah.
Things are not like
Really?
that. Yeah, their parents might be talking in some other language.
I think their parents were talking in Punjabi though.
Perhaps.
Yeah, obviously because because his parents, I'm not going to name my friend, his parents were from Lahore, originally from Punjab, and obviously that's the kind of language they used to speak, and that might be a reason. Yeah. But sir, why are we saying, because this is something which we are discussing for the very first time, that the education needs to be imparted in mother tongue? What will be the benefits of imparting education that to primary in mother tongue?
I think we should first think about the drawbacks.
Yeah.
The drawbacks are that when a child actually has mother tongue which is different from the language in the classroom, half of the message is conveyed.
Okay.
Child cannot understand everything.
True.
Naturally, when you do not receive everything, you cannot give it away.
True.
Like when you are reproducing it, in our education system, we want the children to reproduce as well.
True.
And we test them on the basis of our
on the basis of their reproduction of what they have learned.
Exactly.
Yeah, ratta.
So basically it's like ratta.
Yeah.
But we don't need to have ratta all the time. Not at all.
Well, only
if it
we
is in
understand
mother
it, but
tongue. If it is in mother tongue.
Sir, so far, I think by far, whatever education system we might go to, even if we go to a school where they're going to teach us in Sindhi, even if we go to a school where they're going to teach us in English, or even if we go to the very modern school over here in Islamabad where people have very different names to it as well, I think at the same time what they're doing with primary students is that they want them to reproduce whatever is written in the book. They're never given the liberty to kind of reproduce from their own brain, and that's the kind of ability which you require to develop in your early years.
Actually, what we are thinking, we don't teach language.
Yeah, that's true.
We are teaching them content of the lesson, whatever it is.
True.
But we do teach them language, sir, as well.
We should not.
Language skills, and
four skills are there for language,
yeah,
like reading, writing, listening and speaking.
True.
We start, as a child, we start with listening, then we go ahead and reproduce it, same thing, by speaking.
True.
Then, of course, reading, then writing.
Okay, so then what other ways are to learn mother tongue? For example, if you are talking about it, because I still remember that, they would go into detail of muzakkar, monas, and so what were adjectives? I'm sorry that I have to, present examples in English because we are an English show over here. But obviously, with Urdu's subjects class, these were the drills that we were going through, and which is why now we do not say, we do not mix it. For example, if I'm going to refer to Hajra, I will say Hajra ye karti thi, ya main ye nahi kahunga ki Hajra ye karta tha. It is because of the fact that we were able to learn that language. Otherwise, I don't think that our parents have actually kind of put it on to us that ke beta tum sahi zuban bolo. I mean, you go to Karachi, they would always emphasize on speaking the right Urdu. Over here we have this culture that we've never said to our kids ke beta ye theek Urdu nahi hai.
Yes, you're right, but how many people do they speak right Urdu or right English, any language?
Yeah.
That's the problem.
I think I'm good at
we are not giving our children even one single language completely.
Okay. So how do you think we can do that?
We should start with mother tongue.
Okay.
Why? Because their cognitive abilities will be developed.
True.
They would think deeply. They would be able to get to the point, whatever it is. True. Sometimes reading between the line, even a small child can do that.
True. Even
the
sarcasm
and
can come.
emotional management is there. They can express themselves correctly.
And even sarcasm can be well understood as well. But sir, I have one more important aspect to it.
Obviously.
Now imagine that, we are focusing on the cognitive ability of a child and, while their brain is being developed. Now we live in a world where majority of the population travels all across the world to learn and to educate themselves. Imagine that if we are going to solely develop a child's cognitive ability in the mother tongue, don't you think that in later years of the life, they might have difficulty if they go somewhere other than, where they had this facility of mother tongue to, which they were teaching.
Yes, you're right. You're right. You have a good point actually. There are certain procedures to follow.
Okay.
Mother tongue education is usually imparted up to the age of 8 years.
Okay.
Then switching over to language like Urdu.
Isn't that a very hectic exercise for a child?
It is.
Not so hectic. Why? Because the basic structure of all the languages is almost the same. Almost, if not completely.
I mean, English and Urdu are not same, no?
Of course, they are not same.
Of course.
Because with English, we cannot say choti.
But they will start with, for example, Punjabi. They will start with Punjabi,
okay,
switching over to Urdu, which is very near to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Once they are fluent in Urdu,
Right.
then they will be able to switch over to English.
And let's talk about the digital linguistic divide. For example, a lot of kids, they are using mobile nowadays, or maybe their parents are giving them the mobile through which they could consume a lot of content, especially the cartoons, and they might consume the language which might not be their mother tongue.
Yeah.
But obviously, there are a lot of kids who do not even have access to that digital content, right? So, what is that impact on their linguistic or cognition in that sense?
I couldn't understand your question actually.
So I am saying that a lot of kids, they are consuming the digital content, right, especially on the mobiles. And there's a great divide when it comes to especially people who are living in the rural areas who do not have access to mobile phones, right? And like Shahzad mentioned, a lot of people who are not, who are not acquiring education in the English, they might not get access to a lot of opportunities in their life as compared to the people who might get access to that. So how is the cognition developed in those kids that have access to mobile versus those who do not have
That too in early years.
In early years?
Yes.
Actually, cognition, it develops, we are social human beings.
Yeah.
Animals, right?
And the more interaction you have with the outside world, you
Right.
have more cognition.
Right.
And the language in which you have the interaction, that helps. So if a child that does not have interaction with the outside world via mobile phone, naturally that child will have cognitive abilities developed within that society,
Right.
and suiting that society as well.
Right.
And this is why some children who are very young but they have not gone to school but they can speak English only, they can understand the way you are talking about your child a few moments ago.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's only because they have access to the mobile phone. In that their input is all in English all the time.
True.
Right.
That's why.
And said they have a better understanding of the language too. And this is one thing which I felt, because, so imagine, for everybody who's watching us out there as well, my middle child, Meher Bano, Alhamdulillah. So what she does is that, since she has been really close to her iPad, her first language is English. Now what I have witnessed with her is that, her expression when she speaks, she has a better understanding of the way they speak, whose language it is basically. And now I've actually learned that, there are certain words, there are ways they use words which actually means an emotion.
Okay.
And that's something that we miss out on usually as well. But thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Wonderful to have you over here. And for everybody who's out there, I think my idea over here is that obviously mother tongue is important, number one, to preserve it, number one, for better understanding so that you have a better cognitive ability. But you really need to decide as a parent these days whether you would want a second language for your child. Because what happens is, even for us, that's something which I've gone through myself, 10 years ago when I started this morning show, because it was the only English morning show then.
True.
You cannot think about something in Urdu and then translate it into English and then be so impromptu on screen.
Right.
So the very thinking process really needs to be in that language. If otherwise, I don't think that you can do justice to that language. Do you agree to it?
That's very true. That's very true. And matter of the fact is that English is not mother tongue, right, Shahzad? So when we are speaking it, we are very consciously putting in effort into putting at that, right?
And we are forgiven as well at times because it's not our first language, right?
That's very true. So with that, we will end this segment and go on a short break. So don't change the channel and go anywhere.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back. So before going on to the break, we were talking about the indigenous languages and how to preserve them. But now, Shahzad, as of now, when we talk, we will see that obviously you are also feeling not well. I'm also feeling not well. And that is because obviously there's a lot of dryness in Islamabad and Pakistan in general because there has not been a rain, right?
True.
And we will see that children are also getting infected. But also, I have seen this thing, especially in our generation or in the younger generation, is that we may not be physically that much fit as our parents' generation were, or as a matter of the fact, our ancestor generation were.
True.
Primarily, it has to do with the lifestyle that we are leading nowadays, which is not so very healthy because the element of mobility is not as vibrantly present as it was in our parents' or in ancestors' generation,
True.
right?
And
So
in addition to that, Hajra, if we go back in time, even if when we speak about our ancestors, they've been living in homes where obviously there were rooms and drawing rooms and everything, but they would always have a little bit of extra land around.
True.
Where the kids would go outside and play, and there was a culture of kids, in the evening, will go out in the street, play a little, be under the sun. And I think that element is missing. But this time around, what we witness is, and I've witnessed it myself, unfortunately, that children have this prolonged illness. And every time you go to a doctor and you keep on going to the doctor keeps on telling you it's a viral, it's going to take its time, it's a viral, it's going to take its time, not having any idea of what's going on. And then putting children that to on antibiotics eventually because the kid wasn't getting better. And we've spoken about it, how antimicrobial resistance can actually be very painful for people, God forbid if for a longer period of time you've been on antibiotics as well. But this time around, this season, we have seen, even though that, we do know that it's because of the rain and dryness and whatnot. So no matter what happens, whether you use that mist machine in your room, whether you use a blower, whether you use high necks for children, jackets, socks, you push them to wear their sleepers, whatnot. And it's not just getting well. So, today we actually wanted to talk about, children's health, and it is really very important because no parent, ladies and gentlemen, can see actually their child suffering from any sort of illness, may it be a minor one or a major one. So, to talk about that, we're very lucky that we've been joined by somebody who happens to be a pediatrician. Ladies and gentlemen, he is Dr. Ahmed Kabir Daulat Sahab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you?
Thank you, sir. First of all, I make thanks.
Thank you.
For PTV World International to invite me third time.
Thank you, sir.
Program. And thanks for you also.
Thank you so much, sir. So what are those common mistakes parents are making? Let's jump onto the topic straight away because the doctor part is going to come in later. Why do you think that the children are falling ill in the first place? Let's talk about that.
Let me a little bit explain what's happened in basic in Pakistan.
Okay.
There is one calculation showing we have 30% poor majority of the kids, which these people not reaching with the warm weather, not facilities for guys eating and clothes also.
True.
On the other hand, we can see we lost between 150 child, we lost every day 3 children, unfortunately, about the bad weather. We all responsible about this, include the government, because we can see there is a cold weather starting. Unfortunately, we have factories, pollution, everything inside to the residential as well.
True.
It makes us sick, the kids. Secondly, when the kids join the school doesn't have facilities for the kids. He doesn't care. He just is focused for the fee. And the kids, whatever in the floor or basement or so this all affected the kids' body. Thirdly, we too much care. Too much care still make it sick the kids.
True.
What I advise the parents, when cold is start, don't make it warm the room too much.
Okay.
Just give him normal atmosphere.
Okay.
Not too much clothes.
Okay.
In the beginning, when you starting the cold, you have to responsible to keep the weather normal in the room.
Right. And
even I advise, even not better, you can't use the gas heater or anything. Just leave him normal. Because the case is active also.
Okay.
He's running. And he doesn't stop, although the body is making warm himself.
Indefatigable.
He doesn't need to extra make him warm.
True.
Basically, talking about the kids is a poor kids. Style of living is not standard.
And also, we've seen, Shahzad, that the air quality index has really dropped, especially in Islamabad. And if you go out, you can actually feel that there's something that is hitting or stuck in your throat, and that you can feel that this is a smog, actually, which is a very prevalent feature nowadays, especially in the weather atmosphere. So, in that sort of scenario, what sort of precautionary measures do you suggest to protect ourselves against this menace of smog?
I think I suggest to make steam the room with little bit wicks.
Okay.
And boil water.
Okay.
In the morning time.
For kids?
For kids, for everyone, even for adults.
Okay.
It's very suitable. In Europe, unfortunately, we not use antibiotics for the kids.
What do you use then?
There is normal, just like Vicks, Vaseline,
Panadol, paracetamol.
Normal paracetamol, syrup only.
That's it.
Even until 16-year-old adult, we're not allowed to give antibiotics.
And God forbid if the kid's not getting well, or if they're not responsive to such medication, then what other medicines do we have? What other cures do we have for children?
Basic, I think in Pakistan, we're talking about Islamabad and Rawalpindi. There is a helpful for the kids, normal Panadol and Harinik.
Okay.
And if it's very serious case, to be honest, little bit antibiotics like Amoxil.
Right.
But depend to the age.
Okay.
For example, between 1 year, 6 months to 3-year-old, we should use 125 ml Amoxil. If it's between 6 year to 9 year, 11 year or 12 year, we have to use 250 ml.
Okay.
Supposed to be given.
All right.
Unfortunately, some people go to the medical store, just say, give me one Amoxil.
Yeah.
And the kid's age not matching.
Right.
He doesn't go to the doctor because about the fee or some reason,
Right.
I don't know, he can't afford or something. We should be very careful.
Right.
Because when it's gone our dose, then the case is gone more sick.
Right.
True.
It's getting more sick.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Before it's gone.
And sir, in addition to that, obviously we'll come back to this very medication process and how parents need to be careful. There's one more thing I wanted to ask, and that is that not every time, parents are actually looking after the kids holistically, because now we have spoken about how the room needs to be at a normal temperature, not very warm, not very cold as well, because the kids moving around, not too many clothes, so we really need to take them as normal kids, that's what it is. But at times, because the parents these days are so busy, the hygiene is even not looked after, it is ignored to the max. There are people, there's domestic staff which is coming in, helping, you with the household chores as well. So, imagine these days the most basic and the most common diet I've seen with children, because I have my own children, alhamdulillah, as well. It's those, chicken sausages, chicken nuggets, sometimes half fried, sometimes full fried, sometimes over fried, and then those French fries and putting all the salt in it, and then lollipops, and there's so many things because imagine what kids do is, my kids call them key pop, so they'll be like, we want key pop, and once they're going to have it, they're going to put it wherever they feel like it. I think that their immunity is building up, and then pick it up from the same place, put it into the mouth, and so do you think that it can at times be, if your child is falling ill, very regularly, God forbid, that there can be a mistake which we are ignoring at times? May it be the hygiene, the plates weren't washed, the glasses weren't washed, the bottles weren't washed, something of that sort?
I suggest the people, I think in the cold and winter, you have to use liquid soup.
Okay, liquid soap.
Liquid soap and this kind of stuff. If you give oily and fatty stuff to the kids, especially affect the kids in the chest.
Okay.
Because the weather also is cold.
True.
So you don't need to be honest. And one other thing, when give a shower to the kids to wash them, this time should be very careful. The place the kids give shower, it should be warm.
Okay.
Okay.
And change the clothes in the same place.
Okay.
Yeah. For example, you take shower, when it's same time come out, then you were wearing the clothes, same time affect the chest, the body.
Right.
True.
Because the kid's body, unfortunately, is very sensitive.
Right.
It can't afford
Exactly.
in meantime.
And this is something, sir, which I have observed, when you travel to a colder place or a colder country, I've seen that, they're not very prone to getting flu, influenza, and all of these things. And it's because of the fact that they do not take showers regularly when it's cold weather. That's something which I've observed myself, may it be United Kingdom, may it be Chicago the last time I was there, Windy City, it was cold over there. We as Muslims, we grew up in families where, shower is a mandatory every single day, every single morning.
I'm suggesting the week one time.
Week one time.
Week one time at least the kids have to.
But then Dadi complains.
If it's facilitated, if it's not facilitated, I think it's not important.
Exactly. But sir, half the time, we see our grandmothers complaining to our wives that, they're smelly or something of that sort.
Hygiene is a very important part. That's very true. Thank you so much for pointing it out. And Shahzad, we have seen that Pakistan was struck by a climate-induced calamity called flooding, and there are a lot of places where the water is still there, and it is generating a lot of waterborne diseases. So, Dr. Saab, how can we help those people who are at a place where they do not have a lot of access to resources, especially as we have, for example, living in Islamabad? How can we help those people out, and which particular diseases they are more prone to, so that we could dispatch them the medical help?
And even meager health facilities.
Yeah.
Like I said before, unfortunately, this point we have in the beginning.
True.
And very hard to be controlled.
Okay.
Because the majority of the people doesn't care.
Okay.
Unfortunately, our focus in different way. And the other countries, especially Europe's, all focus for the kids.
Right.
Because this is our new generation.
Because they have fewer kids.
This
now
is
we
our
have so many kids
society,
around.
reserve people.
Right.
Unfortunately, we don't care, like I said before.
Right.
This responsibility for the, especially for the government to control hospitalities, the doctors, and especially the parents responsible as well.
Right.
What he's doing. Some people doesn't care. For example, the parents have job.
True.
The kids living with someone, family and parents. Unfortunately, this time, the care mom have it. Unfortunately, second person never do that.
True.
That's true.
So this make it affect the kids as well.
Exactly. But sir, in addition to that, there's one more thing which I wanted to speak about, and that is that, when we speak about COVID, for example,
right.
For all the children who were born amidst that time of the pandemic, we've seen that they are more prone to getting ill. And unfortunately, I've seen that myself as well with my younger daughter, because she was born right at the stage when the pandemic broke out. And then we have seen her, almost even last year she was hospitalized, this year she was hospitalized, unfortunately. And then there was this newer disease which was referred to as MISC, multi-inflammatory syndrome. And people were unable to figure out what the disease was, because it feels like from all the blood tests that there's an infection in the body, but when you check it individually with different organs of the body, there's no infection. So, and it was difficult for people to find out, and the blood oxygen saturation goes down in the baby as well, and there was no medication for that, so they had to come up with steroids. How do you think that's going to impact in a longer term as well? Post-COVID, we have seen children getting more ill, even adults for that matter. Earlier, flu only used to take 5 or 6 days. Now it's taking 10 or 12 days. The resistance is there.
It's still coming to the environment. And the society is not clean, to be honest. We're living inside to the pollution. Inside to the pollution.
That's true.
Even we open the window to the house, children get straight away.
True.
If you're driving, open the window, same time affected. Because the society environment is not clean, number one. Number two, self-medication.
True.
Right.
We don't know the disease, what's happened, why the kids have temperature, why this happened. We go to the medical store, unfortunately, we stop there to the queue and we say, just give me these things, blah, 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 whatever. So he doesn't know the affecting virus from where it's starting. Is a chest problem?
True.
True.
Is it a neck problem?
True.
Is a nose problem?
True.
Maybe something easy. But unfortunately, we give him a strong medicine. Oh, it's okay, just take this medicine. Oh, sleeping, that's going to be okay. Don't take about him. This is, I think, self-medication. I'm against this.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously Pakistan suffers from over-medication, self-medication a lot, where people are, self-prescribing the drugs, and they can easily get that from the store, especially when you go to Western countries. There is a very strict check on those. You
True.
cannot easily get
You need a
access.
prescription. Even if you're an adult, you need a prescription.
True.
And in addition to that, Haja, that's not the only problem.
Right.
We have Gharelu totkas over here as well.
True,
We have obviously, I think I'm going to trust what Gharelu totkas my mother had for me.
I
For
think it has
example,
some wisdom,
if you had pain in your ear, what they would do is that they would actually take garlic, burn it in oil, put it in your ear,
Oh,
and it
that's
might
good.
have always worked for us. But with these different techniques mothers come up with, that that do this, put some oil, rub the back, and all of that. Do you think you would recommend that, or do you think it's best that you go to a doctor first?
No, you should see the doctor first, I think, because this one culture
Yeah.
is coming before to our brain. And we brainwash always. The grandmom said this, blah, 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 said this, and we should do that
Yeah.
as I expect.
Yeah.
But we lost lot of life, If
Just
you can
because of
see end of the
disrespect.
day, yeah.
Yeah.
Some people using DC ghee
Yes.
oil. I say stop it, please.
Yeah.
Right.
Because this weather, Islamabad, especially Pakistan weather, is not acceptable for DC ghee or this kind of stuff.
And I think it is one of the most
And-
essential
But
ingredients.
sir, for kids, because they're so hyperactive, I think desi ghee is no damage to them.
I think is, to my opinion,
If it's original desi ghee.
no, if it's original and not original.
Okay.
This coming many things from out of this all.
All right.
Right.
Yes, I suggest in the cold time winter, boil egg,
Right.
boil egg,
And what do you
black
suggest
pepper.
in the place of desi ghee? Dalda is even more, unhealthy for our body.
We don't have control in the market, to be honest.
Yeah.
No.
What we eat, what we should eat.
True.
You understand? We don't have any selection for ourselves.
True.
What is coming, we eat.
Yeah.
True.
In the kids as well. Their financial problem as well.
True.
And
What
sir-
is the kids need, we can't afford, to be
True.
honest.
And sir, thank you very much for saying that, because I think that even, when you go to the market, you certainly do not get a lot of healthy eating options.
Of course.
Either it's going to be two brands selling the same product.
True.
Yeah.
It's never going to have to be like, that, okay, for example, if I do not want these nuggets, so okay, we can move on to have this company's organic nuggets. For example,
Of course.
let's speak about that. We do
Right.
not have an option. We only have an option in between brands, but the eating options are that. And unfortunately, what I've seen with this generation, I'm sorry, but I think a lot of mothers out there might not feel great, and it's a generic statement, but mothers from my time, my mother still puts in the same effort. Imagine I have to wake up at 6 in the morning. She makes me a desi ghee paratha every morning. It's totally onto me. Sometimes it's brown bread as well,
Okay.
and then egg, and then whatever curry I want to eat. And she would wake up almost 30 minutes or 40 minutes before me. That's the effort. This time around, what I'm seeing is that, okay, if the kids are supposed to go at 8, the mother's going to get up at 7:45. Just fry those nuggets, and that's it, and the kids are good to go.
That's very true. And this aspect or element of finding ease in our lifestyles, and obviously there are a lot of things which are assisting us in easing our jobs. For example,
Yeah.
the ready to food,
Eat.
the nuggets and whatnot, and it is so unhealthy that we can see the effects on our lifestyles. For example, we are getting sick
Yeah.
so frequently.
And we are spending more money on the food we are eating,
That's true.
consuming.
Of course.
Rather, if we go for organic options, I think that we're going to spend lesser food.
True.
It's going to be healthier, and not just that. I think in addition to that, we're going to save the doctor's fee as well. Very sorry, Dr. Saab, but I have to say that. But thank you very much, sir,
Thank
for
you
being
so
with
much.
us.
Thank you
Lovely
so
to be
much.
in conversation with you, and you certainly need to attend. Unfortunately, a lot more kids were sicker this time around.
Of
So,
course.
ladies and gentlemen, please follow these simple, basic things which Dr. Saab has mentioned over here. Please make sure that, if your kid is taking a bath, they take a bath at a warmer place.
True.
Not very warm, not very cold. And then, when you're dressing them, undressing them, the place needs to be the
Less
same, not
clothes,
wet.
less
Yes.
clothes.
Let's clothes, not
And-
too many clothes, because obviously they're running around, they're active. Alhamdulillah. And please make sure that you avoid self-medication and all of those totkas. Go to the doctor first. I think that's what the takeaway is. But till the next time, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you look after yourselves and your babies and kids as well. And make sure that you write to us on our Facebook page, which is with the name of
World This Morning.
On Twitter.
World This Morning.
On Dailymotion and YouTube.
World This Morning.
Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, 1, 2, 3. It's a very good morning.